Okay, so I came back on to do another rant. Okay, folks, so this is going to be another rant. So I'm warning you, there may be bad language if it is, or what those consider to be bad language. If you don't want your children to listen to my bad language, you might want to remove them before I start talking, because I get very heated and angry when I start to talk about this, because I'm just now realizing what has happened to me. Okay. So, in my previous video before, I was talking about, I was going on, I was just ranting because I was just so pissed off. I really was. Because I'm just tired of hiding in the shadows, and I'm tired of feeling shamed about how I feel, and being told, you're crazy. You're crazy. You're overly emotional. You're too violent. And I do have to admit that I can be violent once I'm being pushed. But I have never, and I can honestly say this, I have never been the person who purposely inflicts pain on others. Okay? So with that being said, I don't want to give people the wrong impression, but at the same time, I'm going to speak my mind in this video. So it's going to be a very, straight and to the point video, but at this educational, but at the same time, you're going to get my opinion, because I'm talking about some of the things that have happened to me and why I've become the person that I've become now at 41 years old, and why I made a lot of series of decisions in my life in the past, because it has never been fully contextualized why I made those decisions. It's always been the blame game, the scapegoat. You did this, you did this, you did this, but there's a story behind that shit. All right. So I'm going to read an article. It's called, as you guys can see, Toxic Families Who Scapegoat. And the article is by Alan Swartz. He's a PhD, he's a doctor. He has a private practice for more than 30 years, and he is a licensed clinical psychologist in the US. Okay, so you guys can see this is the platform, or should I say, this is the actual website and article that I'm reading from, mentalhelp.net. And the reason why I'm reading this is because this describes me to literally a T. It describes me and my plight literally to a T, and why I'm always in this tension in my life, because I can't get rid of the people who I can't get rid of the people who have given life to me. And I'm a firm believer that you should respect your elders. On the same token, there has to be a boundary within that. And when you have people who are your parents or family members, church structure, people at your church, leaders, those sorts of things, who do things that are outside of the best that they can be to be a leader or a parent or what have you, and it teeter-totters on abuse or becomes actual abuse, then they no longer get the consideration of respect. And so this is why oftentimes you will hear me say things to my parents in these rants, in these videos that I say, that seemingly seem to be disrespectful. It's anger, because there's no admission of guilt, and there's no acknowledgement of my humanity. Okay? I'm oftentimes dehumanized by the non-acknowledgement. Okay? And I'll say it that. So moving right along, let me read this article, and this will kind of describe what happens in the narcissistic family structure, especially with the scapegoat. And what a lot of people don't realize is that it doesn't just happen. People think about, just because you're no longer a child or a minor, it still affects your life, folks, all through adulthood. There are some people that are still finding out right now as we speak that they had had narcissistic parents, and then it made sense why they felt crazy, why they go through anxiety, why they have mental health issues, why they're manic depressive, why they're alcoholics, why all of these different things. Well, it's because it's so many unresolved issues, and in many cases, it is that they have toxic families. And if you're like me, who is a scapegoat, the family truth sayer, or the person who wants to get to the truth and fix it and deal with it and come with the conclusion and let's talk about this, let's deal with this, then you get labeled the crazy one. You're to the outside world, they just see all the reactions to things. And then it gets reinforced by the very structure, parental structure or church structure that has the good image, but they don't really know the real truth behind some of these situations. So I'm going, like the saying says, I'm coming out. I want the world to know, about to let it show. And like that little girl is, I forget who that girl was, and it was off of some TV show. She said, "I'ma tell mama." Well, I'm telling. I'm not going to hide in the shadows anymore and feel this shame because I'm hiding family secrets. For years, I have never expressed my feeling or went against the family structure or family business. I don't do that. They have done it to me, but I haven't done it. But in my defense, now it's time for me to tell my side of the story. Now it's time for me to express what I feel. Okay. And so how I'm going to do that is I'm going to read an article that from this doctor who wrote this article in his website, mentalhealth.net, to kind of give you guys a front view or front row view of what it is like to be me or what I've been through and why I am the way that I am. Okay. So it says, toxic families who scapegoat. We tend to think of bullying as something that happens in the schoolyard amongst kids who are being mean and abusive to one another. However, over the many years of my practice, I have come across cases in which the client presented with the problem and complaint that they felt picked on and excluded from their family of origin. They were distressed, anxious, and depressed over this problem, despite the fact that they had their own families with husbands or wives, children, career, and friends. Yet they were experiencing life as though they were children living in their parental home. Now, let me interject here. I have actually lived in my parents' home shortly after my first divorce, which I was living with them for a long period of time, and this was in 2007. Okay. All right, getting back to the article. Incredible as it might seem, there are families that scapegoat a loved one even into and including adulthood. For a variety of reasons, we will explore one member becomes the target of accusations, blame, criticism, and ostracism. While it's happening, family members are totally unaware of what they are doing and would deny it if confronted with their behavior. Oh my God. This right here is really huge. Let me repeat that. While it's happening to me, family members are me or you, folks, family members are totally unaware of what they're doing and would deny it if confronted with their behavior. Often scapegoating begins in childhood and continues into and throughout adulthood. Whew, that's a powerful paragraph, because that's exactly what has happened to me. Okay. Why would a family choose a loved one to bully and scapegoat? The answer has a lot to do with the concept of scapegoating and the purpose it serves. Scapegoating is often a way for families to hide problems that they cannot face. In the examples of cases I have worked with, one or both parents were abusive to their children. And let me interject here. That abuse can be not just physical abuse, okay? Many times it is physical, but a lot of the abuse can be emotional and psychological, i.e., ignoring your child or neglecting your child's needs emotionally and spiritually and psychologically. Okay. which some parents really, really do. They feel like just because they have actually fed and clothed you, so to speak, that it ends there. No, it does not end there. And not only does it not end there, but what ends up happening is if you do like my father did, where you make a decision to do something that affects the whole entire family, and you do that where the child is watching, which is me, okay, at 10 years old, then you're setting a tone for this young person's life and you don't even know it. You're completely unaware of it. And then 20 years down the line, you want to blame me for some bullshit that I did when I was 19 and 20 years old, getting married too young and having children too young and not really doing what it is that you guys thought that I should do. Well, look at the pattern with you guys. And then when I try to say or come to you and say, okay, this is my beef, this is what I feel, I get a letter in the mail. Excuse me, let me not say that. I get a letter via email saying, I don't know what you're talking about. And I know that was from dad and not from mom. Okay. I know you guys talk about me. You talk about me to the people at your church. You talk about me to anybody that will listen. And those people, none of those people or anybody that are from the outside have ever came to me and asked me what my side of the story is. They run with your side of the story because they don't really know y'all. They know the facade that you guys put up. All right. So let's continue with that story. Why would a family choose a loved one to bully and scapegoat? The answer has a lot to do with the concept of scapegoating and its purpose it serves. Scapegoating is often a way for families to hide problems that they cannot face. In examples of cases I have worked with, one or both parents were abusive to their children. In adulthood, scapegoating became a way for adult children to hide the fact of family history of abuse by blaming everything on one member who seemed vulnerable for the attack. At times, the scapegoat targeted by the sibling who was always the favorite in the family. In that way, the less favored sibling becomes the repository of everything that is wrong within the family. A parent with borderline personality or narcissistic personality disorder can vent their own frustrations, aggression, and hate against one child by uniting the others who are made to think that this one sibling is guilty of everything. In this scenario, the parent goads the other children to pick on the one. None of this stops in adulthood. Okay, let me repeat that sentence. In this particular scenario, the parent goads the other children. That means even the adult children, folks. When you become adults and the sibling rivalry between you and your grown sisters or your brother or whomever, it still exists. In this scenario, the parent, who may be a grandparent too, goads the other children to pick on the one. None of this stops in adulthood. I repeat, none of this stops in adulthood. Of course, the child whose personality is most like the personality disordered patient is targeted because that parent, mom, sees in the child everything that they hate about themselves. Here too, this pattern continues into adulthood. This is, oh my goodness, it literally describes me and describes what has happened to me, and it's taken me years to figure this out. The question that scapegoats face is what they can do to deal with the problem. And that's what I'm going through now, which is the no contact / limited contact. And I go in and out of limited and no contact. Okay. Only reason why I have limited contact is for the sake of trying to be, because I love my parents, and it's for the sake of me. I'm not a cold person. That's the only reason why there's even limited contact. If I did not have children, I would completely go no contact. I would change my name, whatever. That's how I really feel. All right. So the question, let's repeat that. The question that scapegoats face is what they can do to deal with the problem. While one might think that this should not be a problem for an adult, the fact is that these people become depressed, anxious, withdrawn, and even in the worst case, suicidal. Okay, let me repeat that sentence. sentence again. While one might think that this should not be a problem for an adult, we're not talking about children, because you got to remember that this carries throughout their childhood and very much into and throughout adulthood, as the article says before. Okay. So even though this person's an adult, the fact is that these people, which is yourself, who's probably like me, you become depressed, you're anxious, you got anxiety, you withdraw from people so people don't understand why you seem mean to them, why she got an attitude, why her face look like that. And even in the worst cases, suicidal. So this is basically saying it affects your mental health. So this is why, y'all, I'm crazy. This is why I'm crazy, okay? Because I have been depressed, anxious, anxiety-ridden, okay? Clinically, by the way, I've withdrawn myself from the situation because I've been dealing with not only narcissistic parents and the family structure, but narcissists throughout my life in the male choices, some of them husbands that I've had over the years. So imagine that. Why she's so crazy. Okay, so there's no way to underestimate the fears, self-hatred, and desperation these people come to feel. It is common for them to believe that what the family tells them so that they accept all of the blame and finger pointing at them, at myself, despite the fact that it's really untrue. Commonly used strategies used by the scapegoat usually end in failure and even worse. I have seen situations where the scapegoat argues, pleads their innocence before the family members, only to find themselves further blamed and persecuted. The sad fact is that the rational and reasonable discussion is impossible. So what is a person to do? What is I the scapegoat? What are you the scapegoat to do when you're in this position? Because it seems like a no ending, it just seems like hell. Okay. Over the years, I have recommended, and this is what Dr. Schwartz have said, he's recommended family therapy for this situation. Given the nature of the family dynamics involved, none of the families have been willing to attend. Did you see that? So even though he recommends therapy, none of the family members have been willing to attend. Okay, I've asked my parents, the patriarch and the matriarch that have been my parents for 41 years, to please go to therapy with me. When I first became pregnant with my first daughter, who is now 19, please go to family therapy. Let's deal with this. They refuse. All right, they refuse. So, since they won't go, the only other alternative that I have suggested and has been used in a few desperate cases is to walk away from the family of origin by severing all ties. Okay. Now there's more to this article, folks, but I'm going to stop here. So let me repeat that sentence that I said before, because that's the most important part, because I'm always pushing with people that deal with this structure, especially if they're the scapegoat. You have to choose whether you want to be in contact or limited contact, no contact, whatever the situation. This is what happens to you. This is what the doctor says, who's a clinical psychiatrist. This is what he says. The only other alternative that he has suggested has been, in a few desperate cases, is to walk away from the family of origin by severing all ties. So, with that being said, folks, this is why I have went no contact, or should I say limited contact, and go through periods of no contact within that limited contact. All right. Y'all, I'm going to put in the description box this actual article that I read so you guys can actually see what it is. But this is why a lot of people act the way that they are. And a lot of people are going through this, especially Black women. Okay. And I'm going to speak up for them because I'm a Black woman.